Hi, beauties. So here we are at the eve-ish of winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm starting a ritual arts series with this winter solstice that will move through until Beltane. You are welcome to join. I would love to have you. We're going to be drawing a lot of teachings, practices, and sensibilities from her mystery school. It's open to women who have been in the school or are not right now. It's a wonderful way to feel into the school if you've been drawn to it. But I wanted to take a moment with you, regardless of whether or not you're going to join me for solstice ceremony or any of the others, to just attune together to what solstice could bring you this turn of the wheel. So, winter solstice, we're moving towards the darkest night of the year, right? The longest, darkest night. So there's a way that we are being invited, if we want to align with natural law, if we want to align with something that's bigger than all of the contentious rhetoric, all of the empty consumption, all of the rigid social posturing, all of the things. If we want to align with something that's bigger, that has a greater depth, that has seen humanity through many of these kinds of bewildering transitional times, then we can turn towards this movement in solstice, and we can turn towards the darkest night. What does that mean in real terms? Well, what it means is that there's an invitation here to turn towards darkness as a substance, as something that you can drink in, as not just a kind of place where you can't see what's in front of you and you're in free fall, right? I think a lot of us are in a place where the blindfold is on, that's for sure. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's true. There is so much intentional and unintentional confusion, hysteria, unknown, uncertainty, and change happening, right? So there's a way that there's a certain darkness many of us have been in that feels like free fall, that feels scary and reckless, and we're trying to orient and we can't, and there's nothing to orient to, and things are slipping through our fingers, and that's like having the blindfold over our eyes, right? And not only having the blindfold, but trying really hard to see through it, trying really hard to do something that isn't possible at this time. So when we surrender into winter solstice right now and we say, okay, you're going to be the darkest night, I'm not going to be able to see anything. I'm not going to be able to know anything. I won't be able to orient by normal ways in which I've oriented before. If we turn towards this time, this holy turn of the year, this pause, right? If we turn towards this with a prayer, towards darkness, right? Towards just night, towards the literal darkness that kind of holds all the stars in their place, that holds us in our sleep, right? We can be turning toward a presence that's deeper than just the darkness of a blindfold, right? A nourishing presence. So when you move into winter solstice, however you might mark this time for yourself, however you might honor the drawing to a close, right? The deepening, the hibernation, the incubation of this time in your life, however you might bring to completion, kind of bring into, kind of give to the dark all of the things, put to rest things in your life that it's time, whose time has come, whose time it is to be laid to rest, right? However you turn toward that, I would offer just a few things. In the ritual series, what we're going to be working with is really fostering a trustworthy alliance with the darkness. And you can follow that in your own heart, you know, whether or not you do the ritual series with me. And what that means is an alliance with the darkness, turning towards darkness as nourishment, right? Letting all the lights be dimmed in your being for a minute, letting all the bright things just soften and go quiet so that you can enter stillness. And from that stillness, you can restore, reorient, and move from a place of renewal, from a place of resource. What we understand in the deep feminine tradition is that the darkness of the deep earth, the darkness of the yin field, the darkness of the unknown, unnamed, and as yet unformed, is the place of resource. It's the place where, it's what we draw on. It's where our reservoir is, the deep waters, right? So when you turn towards solstice, when you turn towards darkness, turn towards it as nourishment and see what happens. Become aware. When you close your eyes, become aware of the darkness that is created there and see how it actually feels to give your eyes rest, to bathe them in warm and soothing darkness, right? See how it feels. You know, the movement we turn toward in winter solstice is not a bright, outward, shining movement, right? It's not necessarily expressive. It's not necessarily, you know, it's not summer solstice. It's not this time when the light is bright and it's warm, and it's a time of incubation, right? Insulation, hibernation, and all of the magic, all of the power that's cultivated in those places in that way. You can only, there is a certain amount for your endurance, right? For refilling your own reservoir, regardless of circumstance, right? We are all facing plenty. So what we need, in a way, what we need the most is to know and trust and feel what we're drawing upon in order to meet the life that's in front of us. And there is something so beautiful and so powerful and so merciful to be found in the dark if you allow yourself to enter it. In order to enter the darkness, you have to be willing to not see. And you have to be willing to stop trying to see, to stop trying to posture yourself, to stop trying to fix it, right? You can encounter your weariness, encounter that part of yourself that actually knows that there's a deeper wisdom than constantly pushing the thing, than the excess, than the thinking, than the talking, than the doing, than the posting, than the, you know, that part of you, that deeper wisdom that knows that if you would just take refuge in the dark, real refuge, if you would just allow all the stimulation to gradually dissipate so that you can actually just feel yourself, that from that place you will find answers, you'll find wisdom, you will find yourself, aspects of yourself that will not show themselves to the light, right? That only restore in darkness, that only unveil in a place where subtlety can be unveiled, right? Darkness is a place where the subtle is not so exposed. You are not so exposed. So winter solstice, this winter solstice, you know, I'm sure you have your ways of looking at astrology or however else you're going to tune into that. It can be as simple as turn toward darkness, the night when it falls, the darkness in your room, right? Turn out the lights, maybe light one single candle. Close your eyes. Cast out all the overstimulation. Cast out media, conversation, words, doing, computers. Cast everything out that is basically constantly asking for a response from you, right? That is exhausting and exposing. So that's not where the power of darkness is to be found. That is exposing, it's diagnostic, it's very it's bright. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense. I just want to take this moment to validate in you your draw towards refuge, towards quietude, and towards a substantial nourishment in that place where you're not just turning out the lights and kind of hanging out, spinning them in your head, right? You're not just like closing your eyes and then seeing all these things replay from all of the media you've watched, or the situation that just happened. What can actually turn a movement into the darkness from just kind of like now you're just in the dark with no lights, but you're still in the same state. What can actually help you work with the fabric of life and foster an alliance with darkness is to turn your heart toward it. Drink it in. Consciously turn toward darkness as if it's a substance, a tonic, right? As if there's a presence there that holds you. As if the quietude that's there is not the absence of anything, it's actually a fullness. That in the silence and in the dark, there is something that will fill you in, right? This is not an empty place. But you can't ask anything of it. You can't go to darkness saying, you can't go to the mystery, to darkness, and say to her, now tell me what I need to do. Tell me what's going on in the world. Tell me what's true. Tell me what to believe. Tell me how to be safe. Tell me all these things, right? She's an unspoken place. She is mystery. She's darkness. She's not going to show you anything, but she will fill you in. She will quiet and calm your system. She will give you the resource that you need in the place underneath of all that moves. And when you start to fill that place, when you allow yourself to take refuge in darkness, just for the sake of taking refuge, just for the sake of cultivating power, just for the sake of filling back in with your own essence, when you do that, then all of a sudden everything will actually change. You will have more answers. You'll have a wisdom in living inside of you. And you won't be as desperate, right? When we think about deep feminine cultivation, we're talking about filling in, becoming substantial, right? Filling in depletions, filling in the reservoir, becoming resourced. This doesn't come from controlling or figuring things out or posturing or rhetoric or anything. It comes from a deep alliance between you and creation, right? You and the pure elements of creation. Those things that have been with us for as long as we've existed and that have endured many, many, many changes and upheavals in culture and humanity. They've endured all the bewilderment, all the brutality, all of the joy, right? So that's what I wish for you this winter solstice, is that you do take shelter, that you ride the turn of this seasonal wheel, that you let yourself be carried into this nourishing heart of darkness, knowing that this has been a place of deep feminine power and restoration and wisdom forever. And that is what it is. That's what you are entering. And she is with you. And she will shelter you. And it's your right and your responsibility to do so, to take shelter when you need it, to take refuge when it's time for that. Right? That's what makes you more and more of a trustworthy instrument, more and more of a resourced keeper of the keys. So that said, I wish you the most blessed winter solstice, the most blessed time in the darkness, that darkness that knows, the darkness that holds, that incubates mystery, the darkness that makes it so that a candle flame can actually show its own purity, right? That you can actually feel your own purity again, more and more deeply. You are so welcome to join me for this seasonal ritual series. It'll move from solstice through Beltane. We'll move from the darkest night to the fruition and the beauty of the sacred marriage, the rebirth of that. I'll put all the information below. This winter solstice, what our time together will be in this series will be turning towards the darkness that knows. We'll be turning toward the sacred need for shelter. We'll be working with practices from her mystery school, one in particular, it's called Shadow Blessing. has to do with a very different way of approaching your own wounds, shadows, fears, using the darkness as your ally, using the literal nourishment of the darkness. And we'll be working with the ritual art of veiling. So each one of these in the ritual series, or in the seasonal series, we're going to be each time bringing forward a different ritual art. And with Solstice, we'll be working with veiling, what it is to veil, to come behind a veil. What power is there, what mercy, what healing is there. The way that the series will work, well, particularly on Solstice, but they'll all work this way. We'll have an hour and a half together of being in teaching and practice and discussion of the particular ritual art. You'll go on your own to have personal ceremony on the actual holy day or in the window of the holy day. And then we'll come back again together a few days after the holy day to complete, to integrate, to really share and seal up what's been gathered through this ritual window. And then you'll have a recording. I'll be making these practices that we'll be working with. You'll have those to work with until the next turn of the wheel. So the practices that I'll create for Solstice, you'll have to continue working with, to continue drawing strength from the darkness and creating alliance with the darkness until Imbolc, early February, when we now turn towards the first light, the first milk, right, with the candle flame. And anyway, you can read all that information below. But you have all my love. I see what's emerging through all of this chaos, and I uphold that in you. I lean my love behind the good in you and behind what's being forged in you and what you're being called to from your deeper knowing, from the wisdom that mends the fabric of life rather than fracturing it. That's where we're going together. Blessed Solstice.